Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and today I am discussing Daredevil, one of the best and just most continually well-written characters that Marvel Comics has to offer. Created by Stan Lee and Bill Everett, redesigned by the infamously famous Wally Wood, reinvigorated as a badass ninja with an equally reinvigorated villain in the Kingpin, and a former love named Elektra. Ann Nocenti did something that no other Daredevil writer has ever done. She made him fight an evil vacuum, the literal devil, and created the best Daredevil villain, Typhoid Mary. And before we get started, leave a like and subscribe for more comic book videos just like this. Ann Nocenti was given the leftovers of Frank Miller's run on the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, both in the Marvel Universe and in ours. How do you follow up the inimitable Frank Miller? By telling stories that strove to bring real issues to the world of superheroes in exciting and emotional new ways. That's how. Ann Nocenti is just a different kind of writer, and it works so perfectly for this character.
One of the problems with superheroes is because I always had a problem with them because you have to escalate to a fight. And my comics, the fights were always the biggest problems. Like, I don't really want to fight, I want to peace negotiate. So, and I even why does everything, they're heroes, yet everything escalates to a fight. And so it was always like this tumor on the story narrative. Like, you build a story narrative, you have themes, for me, it was a lot of journalistic influences from the streets of New York, especially in Daredevil, but then they had to fight. Then when the IP got so valuable with the films becoming multi-million-dollar, billion, whatever, they don't mess with them enough anymore. They don't mess with the superheroes enough anymore. They should. They should just say, because you get these notes when you're doing a superhero now, oh, so-and-so wouldn't say that, or that's off model is one of the things you get, off model. And you're like, well, yeah, we should be doing off model superheroes to throw the gates open again.
According to a plethora of interviews where she's been asked the exact same question, Ann says that she never pursued or had any real interest in comics further than strips like Archie, Pogo, and Dick Tracy. Although, like most writers, she did start off as an illustrative artist rather than a prose or poetic one, but that didn't really get her anywhere, so she took various jobs in New York and began going into careers such as journalism and film and studying there. Her first job at Marvel was granted to her when she answered an ad in a newspaper. She didn't particularly enter this pre-established world as a fan of it. Instead, she was entering as her own person with her own influences and interests outweighing that of a pre-existing environment. In her early career at Marvel, Ann Nocenti worked under the guidance and editorial teams of the likes of Louise Simonson, aka Wheezy, aka Mrs. Walt Simonson, Larry Hama, Al Milgrom, Archie Goodwin, and Mark Grunwald, who I believe is the greatest writer and creator that Marvel has ever had. Second only to Jack Kirby, of course. You can't top Kirby. When asked why she took the job of writing Daredevil after Miller, she said, quote,
I think it was because I was too new to comics to understand Miller's legacy or be intimidated by it, out of ignorance. And since I came from another field, I'd been working a bit in film and journalism, I think he liked the idea of a non-comics person bringing in other influences.
What Ann Nocenti did for Daredevil is take light and dark, humorous and depressing, heart-wrench and the spirit of life, and she brought these combinations and gave to Daredevil such a substance that just hasn't been accomplished since. Can you tell I have a crush on Ann Nocenti? And it's not just because her birthday is one day after mine. But Ann Nocenti is not the only person we have to thank for this absolutely incredible series. In time, I plan on discussing and covering the rest of her time on Daredevil, but in time she would be joined by artists John Romita Jr., Al Williamson inking, Joe Rosen lettering, and Christy Shield providing absolutely incredible colors. But we're not at that point yet. We're still at the beginning. We gotta work our way up to that. But I think you're gonna be pretty surprised to see which superstar artist who would go on to found a little certain company that starts with the letter I worked on an issue of this series. Christy Shield and Joe Rosen were here from around the beginning, almost pretty early on in the get-go, but it was the artists and inkers, John Romita Jr. and Al Williamson, who would have to come on at a later time. It may sound like I am fawning over this group, and that's because I am. I believe that this is one of, if not the best creative teams there has ever been on comics. Once they were all assembled, every issue was just knocking it out of the park. A complete artistic juggernaut of pure creative force that was left unbridled to roam wherever Ann Nocenti and John Romita Jr. wanted it to go.
How about Daredevil fights a vacuum cleaner? Okay, you know? And then taking Daredevil to hell, which we only did because of John Romita Jr., because John Romita Jr. was like rocking it. You know, he's such an amazing artist.
And I am so happy that I got John Romita Jr.'s autograph on the first appearances of Blackheart and the Typhoid Mary issues. Look how cool that is. Look at that. That's so awesome. Just Typhoid Mary flying at the camera with John Romita Jr.'s signature beneath. Perfect. And I hope to one day get Ann Nocenti and Christy Shield to sign them as well.